this is based off of Uniswap v3. And what you see here is at the core level, a bunch of Uni v3 positions that you've added. But the key point is the way that you look at them. They look exactly what you have here. This is a put spread, for instance. This is a short strangle. This is a broken wing butterfly. They all have weird names. But the key point is that the payoff that you see is visually easy to recognize. If this is the current price, if you're in that range, in the green part, you'll make money, or at least you're in the positive zone. If it's red, it's in the loss zone. So very quickly, when you have a look, you can see which one of your positions are in the green, in the red. We can also toggle to a table view, but the table will also show you the same numbers. But here, it's actually very visual. And the key point is that you would scan all of this, identify the positions that you think need management, and just click on it directly. But it's a very easy kind of visual feedback. And you can see the Panoptic positions at the top. You also have the Uniswap positions at the bottom. Providing liquidity is like selling put options, so they all look put-like with different kind of underlying and widths. But the key point is that you can see all of your positions. We can go even lending protocols. We can have this as an aggregator of DeFi positions. And all of those positions will be combined into a single P&L graph. So you can actually have Shiba Inu options, stablecoins, short positions from a kind of per protocol. All of this can combine into a beta-weighted P&L graph. And typically what this means that if you move 1 standard deviation to 3 standard deviations away from the current price, and we can use ETH, for instance, as a benchmark, this is going to tell you what your P&L will look like. So again, this is a bit more advanced, but again, very visual, but all of that is industry standard whenever you deal with options in TradFi. So what we try to bring in is a higher level of sophistication, but also that kind of provides tools to users the same way that, again, market makers and high-frequency traders use to kind of manage their portfolio. So dashboard, very important. You can look at it, and then if it's fine, you just go to the next page, go with your business day, and nothing happens. Or here, you can just go and adjust whichever positions you want. And if you click on one, actually, we can go, so it shows it to you in a slightly bigger format. I'm a big fan of Desmos, personally. This is a graphical calculator that's web-based. And I don't know if anybody here has used Desmos in the past? Yeah, so it's very educational, and it's actually this format. We got in talk with the folks at Desmos. We decided to implement our own version in JavaScript. But it's actually very, again, visual. You see the P&L graph, but also a lot of quantities. For instance, the value, the premium you receive, and kind of a lot of the quantities. So you can actually see this. If you don't like it, you can go on the edit button, and we'll go a bit later, but you can actually now very easily change it. So again, coming in, you see right away if you're in the green zone or the red zone, that's going to be driving your decision making. Otherwise, you can go back to the dashboard and explore the different pools that exist. In Panoptic, you can spin up an options protocol on top of any existing Uniswap pair. So it can be ETH DAI, all the different ETH USDC, ETH USDCs. But at the end of the day, you can actually go and choose whichever pools you want. It's going to show you some information about the pool itself, very similar to the Uniswap info matrix. You have the distribution of liquidity, but also it shows you kind of a few more kind of option-specific quantities. This is, again, we don't have real data yet, so this is all made up, but you can probably see the idea. In this case, blue would be the liquidity owned by Uniswap, and the pink one will be, purple one would be the one owned by Panoptic users, sellers, and kind of what's available to the protocol. So at the end of the day, we hope that this is going to be attracting existing LPs from Uniswap into a slightly very experienced and kind of risk management strategy, but also new users will also kind of come in with a kind of new view of how Uniswap positions are managed. And so you can if we look at the top, you can swap. The same way you could do it, it actually brings you to the Uniswap page, because why reinvent the wheel? The Uniswap page is pretty good, no point in reinventing. And the key point also is we go to a new position. Say I have a bullish outcome on the Shiba Inu token. You can go and choose the Shiba Inu pair. This one, it's not loaded yet, but you can simply, like you do in Uniswap, choose which underlines you want to go through. This one case, ETH and DAI, the feature you want to go in. But once you have made that choice, you can, again, either pre-select from a list of existing strategies. And this is also what we are kind of pushing is that there's hundreds of strategies that exist. You want to be bullish, bearish, neutral sometimes. In Shiba Inu, I have nowhere where it's going to go. I'm going to be neutral, for instance. You can choose from a list of strategies. We have a few there, but it could be an iron condor, for instance. And once you do this, it's going to show you the payoff, the same way we had before. You can see the different legs. It's a long put, short call, long call. Iron condors, you can trade them in your regular account. But you can see each one of those different legs. You can click on them to see what they represent. You can highlight a few of them. If you open up, you can actually change the strike. It doesn't have to be this, but you can actually change where you want that leg to be. But the key point as well is that if you see this, but you want to be a bit more fine, you can actually click and drag around each leg. So in that case, what you see is that you can create whichever payoff you want, and whatever you see, you can actually mint. So again, if you want to be bullish, and you can make it so that the right-hand side is always in the green, for instance. So you transform the iron condor to a jade lizard type thing, but the key point is that you can make it sure that you have a bullish outcome, no risk to the upside, limited risk to the downside, and you mint it. And it's going to sit in your portfolio, and as long as you're in the green, you can actually be profitable. So this process of looking visually at payoff curves, but then also having a way to create payoffs that you are yourself kind of comfortable with is what's going to drive, again, the use cases of Panoptic. We, of course, want to have market makers that can be more sophisticated, or even quants. That interface is not necessarily for them. It's mostly for, again, retail users or pro-tail users, what we call them, so that they have a good understanding of options, but then not at a level that allows them to trade 20,000 times a day. So this is kind of a good way to onboard as many users in a way that, again, personally, it's really easy to see your payoff curve. So that's kind of how I myself can trade options. So that's our vision for Panoptic. We want to be converting all of you guys to options trader, and not options like buying calls on GameStop or Shiba Inu, but rather be a bit more strategic, directional, and also maybe risk managed. What you see here is that you can cap your losses in a way that you cannot do necessarily with buy and hold. You buy ETH, if the ETH price goes to zero, you lose. If you buy a protective put, for instance, you can actually limit your losses. So impermanent loss, whatever happens in the regular LP world, you can actually have more tools to manage them. So at the end of the day, this is a brief overview. We're kind of pushing this forward. This is pretty much like 70% of the way there. But I guess at the end, it's going to be very similar to this when we launch in the summer. Actually, the thing we're going to do is that over the summer, we'll do a gated launch with a trading competition. And every one of you can have a privileged access if you kind of sign up. There's a sign-up sheet in the front. So there's going to be a trading competition. 256 users. We'll rank them, bragging rights for the top. Those at the bottom, we'll kick them out, and then we onboard more users. So be mindful. Sometimes doing nothing is better than trading left and right. So that's going to be how we troubleshoot, beta test, make sure that we understand the users' behaviors, but also we understand the limits of like what can be done with our protocol. So yeah, on that note, I'll leave this to maybe Jesper.
Yeah, I just want to highlight a few things on the technical side here. So what you're seeing here is what we like to call a buttery smooth graph. And it's very easy to drag around. And I just want to kind of bring you into how we got here, because this might just seem obvious that, yes, of course, you're supposed to drag it like that, and that's all good, and it's very responsive. But a lot of work actually went into making this. So when we set out to create this, as Guillaume already alluded to, or even mentioned actually, was that we were very focused on creating a similar experience that we got with Desmos. We really felt like that was a very sleek, very modern way to interact with graphs. And we even met with the founders of Desmos and kind of talked to them about kind of how can we integrate with you. They were kind of like, yeah, we're a very small team and we have like hundreds of thousands of users, so we can't really work with you. All right, well, back to the drawing board. So what we did was, well, okay, if we can't have them work with us, let's just create it ourselves. So basically what we did was, well, next step was then, all right, so how do you create this? How do you create this graph and make it very responsive? That was very important to us. because we do believe that the product market fit will come through and a really amazing user experience. And also, this is our opportunity to reinvent the way we interact with options in general. So if you take a look for a second at, say Robinhood, they obviously did a lot to kind of gamify stocks, of course. Let's not talk about the underlying business model, but they did make it very easy to buy stocks for sure. But when they went into options, they kind of, in our opinion, in my opinion, it failed. I don't want to speak for anyone else. They really did fail, and I mean, actually, like literal lives were unfortunately lost. So that was how bad the user experience was, really, right? So we want to make sure we don't commit that mistake, and we're actually coming in now, and we're kind of like what the Robinhood did to stocks, we're going to do to options, right? And then also on top of that, of course, we're going to operate in the amazing crypto space, the Web3 space. So, okay, so how did we do this? So basically we said, all right, let's look at some libraries. What existing libraries out there in JavaScript and what can we actually use to build this? So we did quite a big scan of existing libraries, of existing frameworks. And every time we thought we had found something really great, we would say, great, this framework can do these graphs, that's perfect. We would build on it, we would incorporate it into this product, and we would play around with it, and it just wouldn't be as smooth and as customizable as what we wanted. So we actually, this took us a little time, but we actually just ended up scrapping everything and said, look, we just need to build everything bare metal on top of JavaScript, essentially. So, we hired some excellent people who could do this, and they did it, and with some guidance. And basically now we have this extremely responsive graph, and I just think it's so important because it does make it very interactive. And it does demystify options, and it makes for a very great experience, honestly, because you see exactly what you get, right? You're not presented with an option chain or an option matrix, if you will. There's nothing to really, you don't need to read big books before you can actually get to buy and sell. You saw how easy it was. You just click new position, you're right here, and you just drag this around, and you're like, yeah, this looks good. If it goes up, sure. I kind of think it'll stay right here, as Guillaume was saying, maybe Shiba Inu, we'll see. But, and if it goes up, fine, I'm not going to lose, and so on, right? And then you're going to see actually in this is kind of unique, but you'll see, I don't know if I can zoom in, but you'll see these little black dots. Do you see those? So on the graph. Behind the scenes, one of the reasons why it was so difficult to build a really smooth graph was that there's a lot of math going on behind the scenes. So like very relatively advanced math that requires a lot of computations. So when you present JavaScript with all this math, it's going to say, great, I'll try to render it, but give me a second, right? Because there's a lot to render. So what we had to do was aggressively just cut down on the number of points that are needed to render the graph. And what you see here is basically the points that are left that are necessary. Those are the black dots. And you're going to notice there's a dot right on the zero line there, the x-axis. So it was actually kind of tricky to get that right. It looks trivial, but it's like actually finding this point and then coloring them correctly is pretty non-trivial. So we had to dive deep in the textbooks, and in some corner on some page 100 somewhere, we found like a very interesting formula that could actually give us this point pretty quickly. Happy to talk more about that formula if you want to hear about it. And then of course you see the bends, not surprisingly, around the cusps. You always need more points, right, in general. And then luckily for us, the Uniswap math does work out so that things become a straight line at some point, which is good. But anyway, I wanted to share that story. That was just one of the many stories we had to kind of navigate through. And yeah, so besides that, we actually have solved this in full, and we are, as mentioned, now going for the gated launch in July. So yeah, that was it from us. So thank you very much for listening and for joining us here. There are a lot of drinks, please, and food, and just mingle and ask us any question you want. But we really appreciate it. This was the demo of Panoptic. This will keep advancing. You're just seeing still an early look. We'll still keep building this out. You see even up here, you're seeing collateral, buying power, block number. We're integrating the graph right now, and there'll be a similar story that I just told you, but probably pertaining to the graph. So Guillaume is much more involved with that work there. But anyway, thank you very much for listening. Thanks for coming, and we really appreciate all the support.